Welcome to another episode of the MMA Lock-Cast. I'm your host, Manpreet, a.k.a. MMA Lock of the Night, and your boy on Twitter, at MMALOTN. Today, we're going to be breaking down UFC London, which is headlined by Darren Till and Jorge Masvidal, the return of Jorge Masvidal. I'm so happy to have this motherfucker back in the UFC. But before we actually get into any of these breakdowns, I got to bring in my boy, as always, Big Rob.
Yeah.
What's up, what's up?
Hey, guys.
So, today on the casuals, we're going to be looking at Tim Means versus Niko Price from this past weekend's UFC Wichita card. Wild fight from what most of you will remember. A lot of you probably lost money on this, but it's all good. I actually hit an underdog bet on this, so I'm happy with that. But we're going to be starting off with 40 seconds left in the first round. I'll kick it off from my man, Big Rob, and he can enjoy the chaos that ensues.
Okay.
So, both guys are pretty decent strikers. I say the guy in the black is a little bit more wild and reckless.
Okay.
Niko Price, that is.
They're very quick, these guys.
Yep. Ooh. That guy in the black's getting lit up.
Oh, yeah. Well, he's hit again. Oh, whoa. What happened? How did that happen? Did he trip?
No, he fucking clocked him, dude.
I was fast. That was too fast for me.
Right? Like,
okay, let's see this.
That other guy was getting fucked up. Niko Price was getting fucked up.
Whoa.
So there's two things that actually happened in this knockout.
Okay.
Obviously, he got knocked out, or he got dropped. And then he snapped his ankle. He broke his ankle.
At the same time?
He broke his tibia, too. Snapped it. So I'll show you in the replays.
Did he do that while he was
as he was dropping, like his body was, he didn't have that much control over his body.
Oh.
And like just the weight, like you have no muscles are engaged, trying to stop your leg from being in that awkward position.
Oh, yeah.
And your body weight just fucking falls on it. So wait for the replay. So it's actually, watch the knockout first. Boom.
Oh.
So it's his right leg. You'll see it better in the next.
So his leg
replay.
right now is done.
Yeah. Watch. You'll see his leg kick up here, but watch his right leg here. Watch his right leg. So watch his ankle.
Oh, hit him right in the jaw. And I see it. It's all. Oh, that's not good.
Nope. Oh, fucking horrible.
And it's just the way he landed too.
Yeah. He landed perfectly. The guy got a little bit reckless with his striking, and then this guy, all he needs is one big shot to like knock some of these guys out.
Oh yeah,
it's crazy. And he was getting fucked up too. Look at his face.
Oh yeah, I thought he was done.
I thought, yeah, pretty much the whole fight was going that way, where that guy was just picking him apart, and then one small opening. This guy is just so strong. Like he's knocked guys out from ridiculous positions, like being on your back and strike. I'll show you this one next week probably, but. Like, pretty much he's lying on his back, striking upwards against gravity, and still knocks the guy out. Yeah. Like, it's nuts, and yeah.
That's power.
Right?
Like, not only did he get knocked out, he's like, I can't walk.
I can't walk. I cannot walk. That's got to be the worst. Lose a couple brain cells plus break a bone or two.
Oh. That's a double whammy.
Fucking such... monstrous finish by Niko Price, but unfortunate end for Tim Means there.
Wow.
All right, thanks, Rob. Appreciate it as always. All right, let's fucking get into breaking this bitch down. Actually, first off, we're gonna go over UFC Wichita. Yeah, UFC Wichita. This is weird. For some reason, BetMMA .tips has UFC Fight Night 146. Labeled as if it was in Anaheim. So it kind of threw me off a little bit. But so let's go over UFC Wichita. I came out on a slight losing edge. One bad decision kind of just ruins the whole night. Not really ruins, It was a minor loss. I'm not too mad at it, especially with the potential profit that could have been made if a certain decision went our way. But again, this is a game where shit happens, but I'll get into that when I get to that fight. So I'm just going to start off right at the bottom of it. I had Tim Boetsch, so 0.25 units on Tim Boetsch to win in round 3 against Omari Akhmedov. Akhmedov paced himself a lot better. I'll give that to him. But it is what it is. I thought at plus 1,000 odds a 0.25 unit stab on that prop was crazy. We all know what we all know what Omari Akhmedov's gas tank is like after 2.5 rounds or even 1.5 rounds. So I thought it was worth a shot at that point. There are guys that will always fade in that third round, and Omari may be that guy once again next time, depending on who he is fighting and if that person will have enough gas to actually make an impact and actually get that third round finish. Next, we had a 0.5 unit play on Niko Price to win inside the distance. I believe that was plus 241. That was a great, that was a great pick. Technically, Niko Price was not meant to win that fight. Tim Means was doing everything proper. Tim Means was making sure his punches were good. He did have a lot of success on the feet. He was lighting Niko Price up. But the only thing is, Niko Price is quite a durable guy, besides his loss to Abdul Razak Al Hassan. But that guy's a fucking beast and probably punches harder than anybody you guys know. But, I think that Niko Price was going to be able to withstand some of Tim Means' punishment. I wasn't confident enough to bet him straight up and even put more money on it. I thought, there's always the chance that he can land that one bomb, and he did. He fucking found the target, and we profited right there at 1.2 units. But I always think that there's a price. There's a price. I always think that there's a chance when you have Niko Price in a fight, especially if it's going to be something that takes place in the stand-up realm for the majority of it. So next after that, my next dog of the night play was Lewis to win inside the distance. Kind of the same thing like Niko Price. I mean, Lewis always has a serious puncher's chance. He did hit Junior a lot of times, but Junior didn't. He's starting to distance himself a little bit from those chin issues that a lot of people were thinking that he had. So kudos to Junior Dos Santos. Kudos to my 0.5 unit stab, but it is what it is. I had to take that shot. I thought it was worth it. Plus 210. But only a 0.5 unit loss there. And then my other two dog of the night plays, Elizeu Zaleski Dos Santos. I wish I went a little bit harder on this. I knew that Zaleski was going to look for the takedowns, or at least be the first person to look for a takedown in this fight, even though he's such a highly acclaimed striker and creative striker. But with Curtis Millender, you're getting a guy that's very disciplined, won't overextend himself to get clipped. Uses length very well, but the one thing that's lacking is his takedown defense, and I think that Zaleski has shown in his past fights that he has good enough skills to get the fight to the ground if he needs to. In that Curtis Millender fight, I don't even know how long it took. It did not take that long at all for Zaleski to get this fight to the ground and then eventually pull off the submission. So I wish I went a little bit harder, but I'm not mad at myself for actually, taking the shot on Zaleski here. 1 unit at plus 200. Plus 100, sorry. Plus 100. And then we had my next dog of the night play, which was Ben Rothwell against Blago Ivanov. I scored a 29-28 Ben Rothwell. I thought he won clearly second and third. I think it was second and third. I don't know why the fuck I can't remember. But for sure, I know I had him winning 2 rounds. And so did a lot of other fucking people. Pretty much everybody had that for Ben Rothwell except for the judges except for 2 of the judges at UFC Wichita. Maybe I think that was a split decision. Regardless, that's minus 1 unit. Thought the value was there, but the judges weren't, so fuck it. Whatever. My first dog of the night, my first lock of the night play was Jeff Hughes over Maurice Green. What the fuck? Like, you just beat this guy. April 2018. It's not even been a full year since you beat this guy. The game plan is there. You fucking did it over 5 rounds. You were able to impose your game plan on this guy with ease. I don't understand the lack of urgency to get a takedown from Jeff Hughes. It was kind of concerning. Like, midway through that second round, I'm like, okay, he should have at least shot for 3 takedowns at this point. And he only had that one at the end of the first round where he didn't even try that hard, in my opinion. Maybe it was the UFC jitters. I want to kind of chalk it up to that. But I was very surprised that Jeff Hughes, sat back as much as he did when he had all the confidence on his side. He had the mental advantage, in my opinion. Maurice Green looked horrible coming into this fight as well. So, like, everything leading up to the fight had Jeff Hughes winning this fight. Like, I could not see any con as to why not to bet Jeff Hughes here. Like, some people might think the odds were a little bit too long on it, but, like, fuck. Like, I thought it was just a gift to get him at -199, considering the game plan is there. There's no improvement from either fighter, or actually, at least not from Maurice Green. Jeff Hughes looked kind of improved in his last fight. So that's the end of my rant on that fight. I said it on Twitter afterwards. I think I really got to reevaluate how much I trust fighters that are debuting in the UFC, no matter how good they look prior, no matter, even if they've had a win over their fucking opponent within the last year with relative ease as well. So I got to kind of rethink my approach when it comes to that type of shit. And then my second lock of the night play, which kind of helped alleviate some of the pain from the prior fights. Beneil Dariush, kind of dicey at the beginning too against Drew Dober. I got him at 5 units at -189. Profited for 2.65. I knew as soon as this fight hit the mat, it was pretty much a wrap. It was more so, was Beneil Dariush's chin there? I think that was a concern from a lot of people. But I don't trust Drew Dober to be that hard of a puncher to give Beneil Dariush troubles. Like, we've seen Beneil, eat some shots afterwards as well. He's fine. Like, he's decent. But if it was a harder puncher than Drew Dober, I'd be a little bit more concerned, and I probably wouldn't be as comfortable putting 5 units on Beneil Dariush. But this time around, I thought it was a no-brainer. Yeah. Like, there's guys like Junior Dos Santos is another guy that has that kind of misconception of having a iffy chin. Those shots that Beneil Dariush got hit with by Alexander Hernandez and Edson Barboza were just like fucking cannons from outer space. It's going to take a heavier puncher than Drew Dober to put Beneil Dariush out again. Yet, he may have had Dariush on a little bit of hurt legs, but it wasn't enough to put his lights out like those other guys were able to. So, I'm happy that I got the win with Drew Dober. So at the end of it all, -1.9 units on -1.9 units on UFC Wichita. So that means I go back to free picks, you lucky motherfuckers. It's all good. I made this policy kind of when I started this whole thing because I thought that was the most fair to do it for everybody. People that have never experienced the picks before get a taste of it. And it's a way for me to bring in, more followers in a sense, more guys that are willing to trust my picks and all that stuff. So, yeah, we're back to free plays for UFC London, and I'm not too mad at it. I don't mind sharing my picks out there a little bit more. But that's totally fine. I'm cool with it. All right, so let's just get right the fuck into it. Quickly, before I do start, tape index, make sure you guys hit that shit up. It's on Newsom's website, newsommma.co.uk. Make sure you guys check out the tape index. It's going to help you guys out. If you guys aren't sold on certain takes that I may have or anybody else may have, go fucking do the work yourself. It's as easy as a click fucking away. Stats right there, so you guys can hit up Fight Metric, which is now UFC Stats. It has all your stats for every UFC fight that these guys have been a part of, and then every one of their fights a click away. Obviously, you need to have UFC Fight Passes. That's the easiest way to get to 75% of these fights. But I do have most, if not all, of the local fights from these fighters, dating back all the way from 2013. So I'm doing it to help you guys out. It was Newsom's idea. I'm just helping him carry it out. And I think together we're going to fucking help, help out the community as a whole. Anyway, let's get down to what the fuck you guys are here for. Let's get these breakdowns going. So, first fight, we got Mike Grundy versus Narimani. So this is going to be a very intriguing fight. The odds currently sit at... where are you at? This is all by Sportbet. -186 for Narimani, +169 for Mike Grundy. These guys kind of bring in the same style. So it's going to be very interesting to see who is able to implement their style a little bit better. They kind of have the same experience or same pro MMA experience. Grundy's coming in with 14 fights. Narimani's coming in with 12. They both have a very grapple-heavy and a grapple-imposing game. Mike Grundy does not make any bones about it. He's a kind of a guy that might mess around on the feet for about 30 seconds or so, but then he's going for a takedown, or at least initiating some sort of clinch that will eventually lead to a takedown. It's obvious he likes that position. With Narimani, it's kind of the same thing. So it's really going to come down to who is able to impose their game a little bit more. I can't really put my hand or my finger on it. I think if you're going to put the odds were at what they were, so even at plus 170, I don't know if I would put the money on Mike Grundy at that point. I think he really held up some value at plus 200 and above, which is where I saw a lot of people get him at. So, they're pretty much the same height. I'm very intrigued to see, though, who is going to look bigger, at least when they face off during weigh-ins or anything like that. So they're both 5'8". There's no real reach out there for Mike Grundy, at least that I can get access to right off the bat. But it's a fight that I'm currently passing on. It's so tough to see or know which guy is going to have the advantage when it comes to grappling when they've both been so dominant with it in their most recent wins. So I'm just going to go with Narimani by decision, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see Mike Grundy be the stronger and more durable one here. But both guys are almost mirror images of each other. It's just that Narimani has 2 more UFC fights than Mike Grundy has. And also, Mike Grundy is coming in as a debuting UFC fighter. So you guys heard me when I was just breaking down fucking my Jeff Hughes bet and what my thoughts are currently on debuting UFC fighters. But yeah, my pick is going to be Narimani by decision. Next up, we got Molly McCann versus Priscila Cachoeira. Most people will remember Priscila Cachoeira from that beating that Valentina Shevchenko dished out to her. She came into the UFC 8-0, and thought she was the shit, and she got her shit kicked in. Mario Yamasaki almost murdered her. He probably could have stopped that fight on plenty of occasions, but he just, for some reason, did not. Regardless, here she comes back just over a year after she made her debut against Valentina Shevchenko, and she goes up against a very different opponent in Molly McCann. She doesn't have to worry about that aggressive, fucking crazy striking coming at her from Valentina Shevchenko. Molly McCann is going to look more so to close the distance and all that. I don't really care for this fight. With the odds currently sitting at, where is it? I just set it up here. Minus 181 for Molly McCann, plus 164 for Priscila Cachoeira. I would not bet Molly McCann out there, but I also don't know if I can trust Priscila Cachoeira either. Who knows how fighters come back from such devastating losses like that? Maybe they might not come back looking at all what they were even before that loss, or they just come back and look fucking exceptional. So I don't know. I don't think the odds are worth betting on either side. But for the fuck of it, I'm just going to pick Molly McCann. I might change my pick later in the week, so don't be pissed if you see me tweet out a Hail Mary parlay that I had like Priscila Cachoeira on or some shit. But, this fight I don't even bother trying to get too far into. Next fight we got is Dan Ige versus Danny Henry. Dan Ige, coming off of 2 straight wins, his only loss in the UFC has been to Julio Arce. God damn. Ugh. As most of you guys know, I'm trying to fucking quit my part-time job so I can finally have some more time to myself and working on this a little bit more, putting some more time into it and some more, even more effort. So it's really taking up fucking my time and sleeping and all that shit, but it's just a matter of time. I'm not too worried at all. Anyway, that's why I'm always half-time when you guys are seeing me record this shit, but I want to get it out to you guys regardless, just because I love fucking doing it for you guys, and I know you guys enjoy watching me do it. So regardless, getting back to the fight. Danny Ige against Danny Henry. We know Ige really wants to implement his grappling here. I think he has a sizable advantage on the ground, even though Danny Henry is coming off of a submission over Hakeem Dawodu in his last fight. I think that was more so of just a flash in the pan of Danny Henry's jiu-jitsu skills. I think that Ige is obviously going to have the advantage here. I don't know what to really make of Danny Henry yet. He holds a win over, like I said, Hakeem Dawodu, which is a very intriguing stat. And then before that, he beat a guy in Daniel Tamor who I don't really rate, nor do I think should be in the UFC. He barely squeezed out a win there over Daniel Tamor. But the one thing in this fight is he does hold a very sizable advantage in the height department. He holds almost 5 inches over Dan Ige, so it's going to be very interesting to see how Dan Ige deals with that reach disparity and if he's going to be able to close the distance or not. I don't trust Dan Ige too. Let's see. Are the odds worth it? Minus 152 for Ige. This might be something I'll look into a little bit more, but I think I'm pretty set on my plays, which you guys will hear about as I go on in this podcast. But I'm going to go with Ige. You know what I mean? I think that disparity between the striking of Henry and the striking of Ige is not as wide as the grappling disparity between the two. I think that Ige will have kind of fun on the ground with Danny Henry if he's able to get it there. So, sometimes being the shorter, stubbier guy might be the advantage, and, being lower to the ground and having your hips closer to the ground, that will allow the takedown to come easier for Dan Ige if he's able to close the distance and even like clinch against the cage or something like that. So, I'm going to go with Ige. I'll go with the grappler here, and I think he gets a second round submission. All right. Let's keep it rolling. Next up, we got Tom Breese versus Ian Heinisch. So this is a fight that I'm very, very, very intrigued with. So starting off with the line, currently sitting at minus 132 for Tom Breese, plus 118 for Ian Heinisch. So the line has slowly been closing over the last couple of days. I'm seeing a lot of love for Ian Heinisch on the Twitter webs. He's coming off a decision victory over Cesar Ferreira in his last fight. It's impressive to get a guy that weathered in the UFC under your belt. But there are some questions I have coming out of that fight. That's a fight that I watched a little bit earlier today, just to kind of freshen up my mind on it. I've been thinking about a play on Ian Heinisch. I like his grappling heavy mindset. I like that he's very credentialed with his wrestling too. The one thing though is some of his fight IQ decisions, like pulling for a guillotine against Cesar Ferreira in the first round. I think it was the first round or the second round, but that's not going to fly. You know what I mean? Like, I think that if he shows that type of lack of fight IQ against Tom Breese, I think Tom Breese is going to take advantage of that. So I look back at Tom Breese's fights, and the only fights he's really been taken down in, or the only fight he's been taken down in, is the Keita Nakamura fight. Nakamura was able to get him down 3 times. So I don't think that Ian Heinisch will have much of an issue with getting Tom Breese down. I think he's the better takedown executioner than Keita Nakamura is, and especially he has the credentials to back that up. So I don't think that Ian Heinisch will have much issue getting Tom Breese down. My issue is, how is he going to be able to keep top position? Tom Breese is a very big guy for this weight division, middleweight. I don't know why the fuck I'm tripping out. He's a very big guy. Ian Heinisch, standing at 5'11". We got Tom Breese at 6'3", 73.5-inch reach, while you get a 71-inch reach from Ian Heinisch. So we know that Tom Breese his strengths are really catered towards the striking aspect of MMA. Very good a boxer, very quick with his hands, great jab, great foot movement. I believe he has a really good sense of range as well too. So I think he does a good job of making sure he keeps fighters in their boxing range. So kind of just like the last fight, it's going to be interesting to see whether Ian Heinisch is going to be able to close the distance without eating too many big shots. Like I said, I don't think it'll be hard for Ian Heinisch to get this fight to the ground. But Tom Breese, one thing that he showed in that Keita Nakamura fight, and the fact that he's been working with guys like Gordon Ryan, I'm trying to remember the other guy's name, but it's slipping my mind at the moment. So, but he's working with a lot of top level jiu-jitsu guys. You know what I mean, he recently had a jiu-jitsu match with Vinny Magalhaes as well. So even though he's primarily known as a boxer, he does work on his jiu-jitsu quite often, and I don't think he'll be in too much trouble if Ian Heinisch even got him to the ground. You know, one thing that we saw Tom Breese do almost immediately every time Keita Nakamura got him down was go for a heel hook. So even though he got taken down once in each round, he still managed to win that fight decisively because he was able to reverse the position, right? You know, quite easily as well. So I'm highly considering a bet on Tom Breese, and I'm gonna sit and wait and see where those odds go, because people are really high on Ian Heinisch, and I also think they're high on his grappling prowess. And I do agree, but I think that Tom Breese is a different animal than some of these guys, and I think he's also going to have the better gas tank than Cesar Ferreira, so it might be even more difficult for him in the third round to try to get a 6'3" guy down, especially with the guy with such good footwork and great boxing. You're going to have to eat a lot of shots to close that distance. So I like Tom Breese here. I'm going to pick him to win by third round TKO, and I may bet him. So just stay tuned to my Twitter, and you guys will find out. But my official pick is going to be Tom Breese by TKO third round. Let's move it on. Next up, we got Saparbeg Safarov versus Negumereanu. I heard one of the announcers say it the other day when I was watching some of his fights, so I'm trying to nail it. Negumereanu. Like, it almost sounds like Keanu. Like, the end of his name is Keanu Rianu. Negumereanu. Whatever. Nick. We're going to call him Niku. His nickname is Niku, so we're going with Niku. So, Niku, one thing that jumps off right off the bat, you know, one of the first things I saw on Twitter about this guy when he stepped in to fight Saparbeg Safarov was the fact that all of his past opponents are pretty much cans. His past two opponents alone have a combined record of 12 and 28. I watched the Kovacs Komami Kauman fight, which was his second last fight, and that guy was old, stiff, could barely fucking move. You know, I was surprised that he was able to fend off the rear naked choke as long as he did. So that might be a little bit of concern when you're talking about Niku. But he's going up against a guy in Saparbeg Safarov who I don't even think is that talented. So automatically, I'm not even going to bother looking at the odds. This fight is a pass for me. I'm not even going to touch it. Too much unknown X factors. You know, Nick's legitimacy. Is he a can crusher? Is he the Jordan Wright of fucking UFC London? And how good is, or how not shitty is Saparbeg Safarov? So I'm gonna say that Negumereanu guy when Nick wins by submission, probably third round after Saparbeg gasses a bit, but don't put any fucking money on that fight. I beg of you. I beg of you to not put any. If you're gonna touch anything, I would look at the fight doesn't go to decision. Those odds aren't out yet. It might be chalk as fuck. I am not sure, but that would probably be the only thing that I would touch in the fight. But I will definitely not bet it on my own. Next up, yeah, so I said Nick by third round submission. Might be completely off on that one. Next up, we got Marc Diakiese versus Joe Duffy. This is a very, very fun fight to think about. You know, both guys have very good stand-up skills. Joe Duffy, more of a boxer stance, more of a traditional boxer type of striking. Marc Diakiese, a little bit more flashy, you know, likes to throw in his kicks a lot. But the thing here is really going to be Joe Duffy's, you know, frame, his ability to control distance. You know, he's going to be, wow, it says that to the same height. That has got to be off. God damn. I can't wait to see these guys kind of square off, because Joe Duffy, in my opinion, has always looked like a bigger, at least lankier lightweight compared to the rest of these guys. But his precision, his power, his technique, I think is going to overwhelm Marc Diakiese here. However, I do think it's going to remain a stand-up battle. I just don't trust Marc Diakiese here, who currently sits at plus 186 and minus 214 for Joe Duffy. I can't trust Marc Diakiese. I think Joe Duffy is just too good on the feet. I don't think that Diakiese has the chops to get this fight to the ground. I think Joe Duffy's takedown defense is good enough, even if Marc does try to initiate any type of grappling. I wouldn't be surprised to see Joe Duffy initiate the grappling and maybe go for some sort of submission. But I think this is Joe Duffy's fight. I'll give it up to Diakiese. You know, he is tough. He was able to withstand beatings from Nasrat, Hakprast, and Drakkar Klose, even though Daniel Hooker ended up finishing him with a guillotine choke at the beginning of the third round. But I'm going to go with Joe Duffy here. I think he gets a decision victory. I think he picks Marc apart on the feet to go on to a 3-round decision. But I would not bet Joe Duffy at minus 214. You know, he's coming off a pretty bad loss to James Vick, even though that was almost a year and 4 months ago, which is a good amount of time off. But you know, he did have fights scheduled between that time, so who knows what really happened there. But yeah, good amount of layoff for Joe Duffy to come back from such a bad. Now, it wasn't a horrible knockout, but he definitely got his brain rattled there at UFC 217 back in November of 2017. So good amount of time for him to be off. But I'm going to take him here by decision over Marc Diakiese, but probably not a bet. Next up, Arnold Allen versus Jordan Rinaldi. Coming into, or when the odds actually came out for this fight, one thing that did strike my eye was Jordan Rinaldi. You guys know I love grapplers. I love you know, the advantage, you know, especially when it's very significant. I love the advantage it has, because it allows our fighter to get into the most dominant position and safe positions as possible, and you know, having to worry about shit. So I believe Jordan Rinaldi has the ability to get this fight to the ground. I expect him to hit a couple takedowns on Arnold Allen. However, I do not like his ability or lack of ability to keep his fighter down after he gets him down. I think Arnold Allen has shown a lot of improvements in terms of trying to get up. You know, he had a lot to deal with Masvidal in his last fight. In his last fight. Crazy how he managed to catch Masvidal in that front choke at the third round. And, you know, he had a lot of crazy scrambling scenarios with McCann and Amirkhani. So I could see him having similar scrambles with Jordan Rinaldi, even though Rinaldi is the more credentialed grappler here. But, you know, Allen ever improving. I think that he definitely will give Jordan Rinaldi problems and probably be able to continuously get back up, if not reverse positions at certain times. But I think that the discrepancy in the striking is where it's going to matter. So I think that when Arnold Allen is able to get this fight back up to the feet, that's where Jordan Rinaldi is going to pay. And I think that's where Arnold Allen will eventually find himself in a TKO victory. I think that he gets a second round TKO over Jordan Rinaldi. After Rinaldi, you know, maybe after a couple of successful takedowns, again, is just not able to keep Arnold Allen down. He's not able to keep Arnold Allen down. And that's where Arnold starts, you know, putting his punches together and finishes Jordan Rinaldi in the second. It kind of hurts to say that because I've won some money on Jordan Rinaldi in the past. His brother even followed me on Twitter. So that was cool, but I just got to go against him here and pick Arnold Allen by second round TKO. Next up, Jack Marshman versus John Phillips. I am not giving you guys a fucking legit breakdown for this. Come on. We know this is going to be a battle of the balls. Who has the bigger balls? Who's going to be able to stand there and fucking implement their striking and their aggressive style more? And that's pretty much all it's going to be. Don't expect the highest of martial arts in this contest. Just expect bombs. You know, John Phillips is coming off of 2 losses to Charles Byrd and Kevin Holland. In both fights he got finished. And then Jack Marshman is coming off of 2 losses as well. He lost a decision to Carl Roberson in his last fight, which I bet the fight doesn't go to decision on that. But then eventually Carl Roberson, I believe, injured himself in the first round and had to resort to a more takedown-heavy, safe route to a victory rather than a banger that I thought it was going to be And then before that, he got submitted by ACJ by rear naked choke. So in this fight, I expect both guys to kind of just go out there and bang. They're just going to bang until somebody fucking drops. I'm going to go with Marshman just because I don't really like John Phillips. So only thing I would bet in this fight is fight doesn't go to decision, but that's probably going to be like minus 700 or some shit. So fuck it. That takes us to my first play that I actually have locked up for this event. I pretty much locked it up right after UFC Wichita was done because I was done the tape and I really liked what I saw. So I thought that this was the best line that I was going to get. I bet Claudio Silva at minus 147. He currently sits at, let's see what the best price you can get him at now is. So I placed that on Saturday night, aka Sunday morning. The best price you can get is minus 144 on Bet Online. So I got him at minus 147. I believe it was on Pinnacle or Sportbet. I got to look back. But yeah, like a lot of people like Danny Roberts here. I've been seeing a lot of people bet on him, but it doesn't really reflect in the betting line. So let's break this motherfucker down. Claudio Silva has really only fought 3 times in the last 5 years. It could be a good thing, could be a bad thing. He has yet to lose a fight in his UFC career, so who the fuck are we to say anything? He has victories over Brad Scott, a split decision win over Leon Edwards, a 22-year-old Leon Edwards, as most people are trying to say, and then a stupid Nordine Taleb. The one thing in this fight, so it's obvious, you know what I mean? Danny Roberts wants to keep it on the feet. He wants to try to outstrike Claudio Silva, maybe get a TKO eventually. Claudio Silva wants to get this fight to the ground. Claudio Silva has that. He has that. The Haniyaya, the Damian Maia, the Pedro Munoz. He has that BJJ striking cockiness almost. You know, he throws bombs. He is not the most technical. He is long though. He is definitely a long fighter who is able to cover a lot of distance with some of these winging shots that he throws. You know, he might be giving up a little bit of size to Danny Roberts here, but I think that his chin is good. Danny Roberts does hit hard, yes, I do agree, but we have seen Danny Roberts get brutally KO'd twice, whereas Claudio Silva is still undefeated. I believe that Claudio can throw enough heat in his shots to hurt Danny Roberts. And I think that's going to allow him to close the distance a little bit easier. I think that's going to allow him to get this fight, you know, pushed up against the fence. He's going to drag Danny Roberts down and slowly work for a submission. We saw how easy it was for him to get to full mount in these fights that he's gotten past already. You know, he is a wizard on the ground, and I expect him to get top or full mount within that first round. I expect him to close the distance with these, again, with his striking. Danny Roberts, you know, decent footwork, but he found himself in some sticky situations with David Zawada, and David Zawada was able to capitalize and get some of these takedowns as well. So I think that Claudio Silva has enough, you know, he's strong enough, you know, he has a good enough grip to be able to get these guys down, drag them down, and I think that Danny Roberts won't be the guy to stop Claudio Silva. I truly believe that this is Claudio Silva's fight. And that, again, we always talk about the discrepancies between, you know, the striking aspect of the fight and the grappling aspect of the fight. And I think that the fact that the striking disadvantage is, you know, a notch or two below the discrepancy in the grappling, but I think that Claudio Silva's grappling obviously is more than Danny Roberts' striking advantage over Claudio Silva. So I really like Claudio Silva here. I don't know how else to word it for you guys. I mean, like it's pretty straightforward, but I do see paths where Claudio Silva is able to close the distance and get this fight to the ground. People talk about gas tanks. I don't think that Danny Roberts really has the shots in him to get a knockout in the third round. You know, he did get Bobby Nash near the end of the second round, but I think that Claudio Silva's just style of, you know, continuously closing the distance, and getting a hold of Danny Roberts is not going to allow Danny Roberts to get off that shot. I think, Danny has a chance of landing in that first round, but I think I trust Claudio Silva's ability to close the distance and get this fight to the ground more than I do Danny Roberts' chance to land cleanly enough on Claudio Silva to pull him out in instances where we've seen Claudio Silva's chin keep up. So my pick is actually going to be Claudio Silva by first round submission. Fuck it. I'm calling it. First round submission, Claudio Silva. He gets Danny Roberts down and rear naked chokes him. Mic drop. All right. Next fight is another fight I am highly considering. So, earlier this week we saw Nathaniel Wood at minus 250. Since then, his price has gotten worse. Right now, what's the best we can get him at? Minus 271 on Pinnacle. On Sportbet, he was at minus 250-ish. Yeah, minus 244 for like 3 hours, 2 or 3 hours. And then he went back up. If his price gets back to minus 250, I will be betting him as a lock of the night play. I think he definitely has this fight over Jose Quinonez, who has shown much deficiencies in his striking. And not the greatest jiu-jitsu considering he has jiu-jitsu tattooed across his fucking chest. Oh, there we go. Yeah, considering we have jiu-jitsu tattooed across his fucking chest. So, Nathaniel Wood is a fucking prospect. I think this fight, maybe one more fight after this, he should probably drop that prospect nickname and call himself the King or the One or some shit like that. But that kid is super fucking talented. I think he has many opportunities to win this fight, whether it's on the feet or even on the ground. But I think that he's going to pick out like his speed with his striking, his distance management. I'm very, very impressed with him. I didn't really pay too much attention to him, but once I really dug into this tape, because I've always liked fading or thought about fading Jose Alberto Quinonez, and I think this is a prime spot to. However, I think the odds are just too wide, man. I can't justify myself to pay minus 270 for Nathaniel Wood at this point. So I'm going to keep an eye on that. It may be a parlay piece. It may be a parlay piece. I don't know. We'll see. Just keep an eye on that line. If you're able to get better than minus 250, I would consider him a lock of the night play. And again, if he hits that line before the fights kick off on Saturday, I will play that. Just saying. So I'm gonna take Nathaniel Wood by second round TKO. I think he eventually overwhelms Jose Quinonez on the feet, drops him, and just pounds him out. Next up, we got Volkan Oezdemir versus Dominick Reyes. A very, very intriguing fight in the light heavyweight division. However, a very unfortunate image of Volkan Oezdemir that we're coming back to. So Oezdemir is coming off of two finishes. One to Daniel Cormier, which was his title shot back in January of 2018. And then he fought Anthony Smith in October of 2018 and eventually lost in the third round via rear naked choke. Showed very poor gas tank in that fight. I bet Volkan Oezdemir in that fight. I thought he was a shoo-in. I thought he was going to land on Anthony Smith and put him out. But Anthony Smith, his chin held up. But I also don't think Volkan Oezdemir was able to land cleanly enough on Anthony to make that big of a difference. But I think we've seen what there is to see with Volkan Oezdemir, and I think that Dominick Reyes is the perfect fighter to expose those things. But one thing always is Volkan does show that he has power, and I think that if he clips Dominick Reyes, it could be an issue for Dominick Reyes. Reyes is going to have to be very, very methodical in this fight. He can pick apart Volkan Oezdemir on the feet. I truly believe that. I also think that he might be able to get this fight to the ground and kind of, work his jiu-jitsu as well. We've seen Volkan Oezdemir show deficiencies in his grappling, and I think that Dominick Reyes is talented enough in that aspect, even though he's relatively young in his pro MMA career. I think he shows enough of talent in that realm to give Volkan Oezdemir an issue. So I'm going to be taking Dominick Reyes here. I think that he'll get a second round submission after, kind of lighting Volkan Oezdemir up on the feet too. I think he's very talented on the feet too, but I think he's going to be a problem with jiu-jitsu for a lot of these guys. yeah, he's just been deading people with punches and stuff too. He has 2 submission victories too, but he's shown a lot of good grappling in his fights as well. But I wouldn't be surprised to see him light up Volkan Oezdemir on the feet and then cement himself as like a top 10-ish light heavyweight in the UFC's head light heavyweight division, which is in very much need of a lot of prospects right now, considering the fact that John Jones just fought Anthony Smith, who was a former middleweight, and now is probably on track to fight another middleweight who just came up to light heavyweight in Thiago Santos. So Dominick Reyes, Johnny Walker, Alexander Rakic. There's another Dagestani dude that's going to be making his return. I think he's coming back from a USADA violation or some shit. But I think light heavyweight is slowly on the rise and might be one of the glamour divisions as it was back in the day. For my pick, I'm going to take Dominick Reyes by 2nd round submission. Next up, we got Leon Rocky Edwards against Gunnar Gunny Nelson. A possible bet of mine here. I love Gunnar Nelson. I think he's a very talented fighter. His loss to Santiago Ponzinibbio was very unfortunate. Completely got out grappled by Damian Maia. Lost a split decision to Rick Story. But had an absolute war in his last fight against Alex Cowboy Oliveira. I really like Gunny Nelson. Like in terms of his striking, he isn't the most powerful, but he has a very karate style base with his striking. But Leon Edwards is the more traditional stand-up fighter. Very good Muay Thai, very good kickboxing, very good boxing. Obviously wants to keep this fight on the feet. Gunnar Nelson is next level with his jiu-jitsu. So there's going to be a couple intriguing factors of this fight. Leon Edwards could absolutely beat up Gunnar Nelson's lead leg, which will, kind of take off that pop from Gunnar Nelson in this fight. I am intrigued by the fight. Does it go to decision prop on this? And I will definitely look at it. Because I think that if Gunnar Nelson gets this fight to the ground, I think he's going to kind of have a field day with Leon Edwards on the ground, to be honest. But I also think that if Leon Edwards is able to keep this fight on the feet, he should be able to outstrike Gunnar Nelson and maybe even stop him. Again, beat up that front leg, kind of render Gunnar Nelson immobile, and then just pick him apart on the feet, maybe get some sort of a TKO. So if it's at a decent plus money, it might be something that I might poke now that I'm thinking about it. But again, as of Tuesday at 6:20 p.m. Eastern Time, we don't have any odds on the fight doesn't go to decision, so I can't really comment on that. But I'm going to possibly take an underdog shot with Gunnar Nelson here. I think he does enough damage on the feet to get this fight to the ground with his karate before the leg kicks start to add up. He's going to have to eat some shots from Leon Edwards, but I trust in his chin. I think that he's weathered enough to, he's just so good. I love Gunny, man. I really think he's a really good fighter. And again, his advantage on the ground, going to be fucking miles apart from Leon Edwards' advantage on the feet. I'm trying to find the odds here, sorry. Plus 138 on Sportbet for Gunnar Nelson, minus 152 for Leon Edwards. I'm going to be keeping my eye on that throughout the week. I think there might be more money that comes in on Leon Edwards. If Gunnar Nelson gets to an intriguing level, which I would say probably around plus 150, I would still wait and still see where that goes, but I would consider a bet at that point. But just keep your eyes peeled on my Twitter feed. That's where you guys can get the most up-to-date bets, pretty much. I very rarely have an official bet already made, unlike the Claudio Silva bet that I have from earlier today, or earlier from this podcast. But you have to really see the Twitter feed to know up to date if I'm going to be betting something, especially as the fights get closer throughout the week. So my play on this is going to be Gunnar Nelson by second round submission. Yep, Gunnar Nelson, second round submission. All right, it's main event time. I'm going to give this bitch 3 horns. We got Darren Till versus Jorge Masvidal. I am super stoked to have Jorge Masvidal back at it. He hasn't fought since he fought Wonder Boy Thompson all the way back at UFC 217. Same night that Joe Duffy got knocked out by James Vick. James Clark, what the fuck? James Vick. So with Jorge Masvidal, the one thing about him that really irks me is that it seems like in some of his fights he just decides not to show up. More often than not, it kind of happens in a fight that kind of has a lot of meaning and a lot of marbles on the table, if you want to call it that. You know, the Ali Quinta fight, the Benson Henderson fight, the Lorenz Larkin fight. I mean, these are fights that it seems like he just didn't show up to. You know, when he does show up, Ross Pearson, Jake Ellenberg, Donald Cerrone, I believe he was the underdog in that fight too, if I'm not mistaken. If he shows up, he has all the makings of a champion, in my opinion. He has the skills. He has the experience at fucking 45 fights now. This will be his 46th fight. He has that fighter mentality that will allow you to win many of fights. It just goes to show in this fight that he's going to be massively undersized, I believe. 5'11", 73-inch for Jorge Masvidal, 6 foot, 75-inch for Darren Till, but I'm sure it's going to be more pronounced when we actually see them face-to-face. So there's going to be a couple questions of whether Jorge Masvidal is going to show up. Whether he is able to actually mentally be there for this fight too, in terms of, is he actually in it still? Like, does he still want it? Like, you know, like in this time since he's been off since 2011 or 2017, I know he's done a lot of like Spanish shows. He's done a lot of Latino things. You know, he's done a lot of acting, a lot of like agency work, some other shit. So was he training during that time? You know, we've seen some pictures of him looking like he's coming right off the set of Castaway or some shit, but you know, how much is his heart really still in this? But if he is just reinvigorated by the fact that he's getting a main event slot against a guy who just fought for the title, you know, because a win over Darren Till here could mean, you know, a skyrocket for Jorge Masvidal. You know, we have a new reign with Kamaru Usman, so like a lot of people have been saying, the welterweight division has kind of been juggled up now. So the guys that have lost to Tyron Woodley, like now Wonder Boy Thompson, you know, he's fighting Anthony Pettis coming up in a couple weeks, and now he easily is able to, you know, be in contention for a title now because we have a new champion. So with Jorge Masvidal, it means the exact same thing. You get a victory over a guy who just fought for the title. You put yourself right in line to, you know, fight for the title if you get a victory here. He's got 5 rounds to work with the striking of Darren Till. He's got 5 rounds of, you know, dealing with that frame. I think he has the cardio, the experience, and the veterancy to take this fight at a pace that will, you know, deteriorate Darren Till over 5 rounds. You know, we all know Darren Till's issues with his weight cut. He always fucking has trouble making weight. The motherfucker is just huge for 170. But I think that Jorge Masvidal, you know, a guy that used to fight at 155, you know, way back in the day, I think 2016 is when he had his last lightweight fight. He's going to be fully hydrated. He's going to be fully ready to go in this fight. And I think that his, you know, he has good enough striking. He has a good enough all-around game to give Darren Till a little bit of a fit. So that might sound like I'm jerking off Jorge Masvidal here. Again, who sits at plus 206 with Darren Till sitting at minus 234. Those odds are just too wide for me, you know. If anything, I would poke Jorge Masvidal at those odds. But anything worse than minus 200 on Darren Till, I'm passing on. Anything better than minus 200, I'm probably playing Darren Till. I don't think I'll touch him in this fight because I already have my plays kind of set and I know what I want to bet. And there are still some questions surrounding this fight because I know how good Jorge Masvidal can be. So don't just go into this fight thinking that Darren Till is just a sure bet, a shoe-in, because Jorge Masvidal can come up, show the fuck up, and Donald Cerrone this motherfucker. You know, he could make a statement. But just too many questions surrounding him as well. So it's a pass on my end, but I'm going to take I'm going to take Darren Till by 4th round TKO. I know I've been fucking stroking Jorge Masvidal here, but I still think that this is a fight for Darren Till to win. Again, using his size, using his power. His striking is going to be really good too. I don't know how Jorge Masvidal is going to react when he gets hit by a guy that big. So, just considering all the X factors that are coming in for Jorge Masvidal's side, the layoff, everything he's done since then, whether he's been training or not, I got to go with Darren Till here. He's on a bullet train back to the title shot. I think that his mentality is like next level shit. And I think that, whoever he was going to fight after he conceived his first loss was going to be in some trouble. And unfortunately, it's going to be Jorge Masvidal this time around. So I'm going to take Till by 4th round TKO. But don't be surprised if you see fucking Jorge Masvidal show the fuck up. So that's pretty much it for this week's show. Quick things I want to touch on. Combatosaurs, great fucking, great effort. I'm going to pat myself on the fucking back. Fuck you guys. I thought we did a great job. I love the chemistry that me and Tony have. I can't wait to continue to do more shows. We have a lot of fun things. Like me and Big Rob, we just literally had like a little bit of a meeting right now before we started recording this. And we just talked about ways that we can innovate it, make it better, make it more appealing, make it more visually appealing. And also, I've finally fucking come around to getting this shit available in audio source too. So you might be actually listening to this on Spotify, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and eventually iTunes. I'm going to be hooking that shit up within the next day or two. So everything will be posted on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and YouTube. Though obviously the only video version that you guys will be able to see is the YouTube version. But I want to make this available across all platforms. I know a lot of you have been asking for it, and I finally fucking delivered. I'm sorry it took so long, but here the fuck we are. Blam, baby. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Make sure you guys follow me on Twitter at MMALOTN to keep up with all of my bets. Anything that I'm considering, any thoughts that I have, I just fucking tweet it out. And my DMs are always open if you guys want to talk fights. The comments are always open below the video as well on YouTube if you guys are listening there. I'm more than happy to converse with you guys regarding fights, matchups, my takes, your takes, his takes, who the fuck's takes. I don't give a fuck. I'm down to talk to you guys. It's fun. It's what I want to do for a living, so I love fucking talking it. We're going to be dropping something very shortly too, in conjunction with the Combatosaurs, which I think is going to be very fun. And then the next Combatosaurs episodes are actually going to be taped beginning of April, and I believe we're going to be going bi-weekly after that. So none of this monthly shit. We're going to go a little bit harder. We're going to make it more fun. It's going to be a great fucking time. So yeah, next week, UFC Nashville, headlined by Showtime Pettis and Wonderboy Thompson. Going to be a great fight. Can't wait to break it down. I got to remember what the rest of the card looks like, but I can't remember off the top of my head. But doesn't matter. UFC London this week. Got one bet up, which is Claudio Silva lock of the night play so far. A couple other bets that I'm considering, but watching where the lines go. Again, keep up at MMA LOT on Twitter. Like, subscribe, do all the shit below the video on YouTube. Subscribe on SoundCloud, Spotify, whatever the fuck you got to do to stay up to date. I will keep you guys in the loop. All right, that's it. I promise. I'm done. I'm out. Later. Peace.